What's going on, gamers? So it looks like Sony's got a hit on their hands. Again, they always end up finding that, right? So a Game of the Year contender right here. 102 reviews and 90 meta. Kojima knocked it out the park. In this video, we're going to be focusing on what Digital Foundry is also saying too about their tech analysis and how this is one of the best looking games ever made in this generation as well, and how they've made huge jumps, and Death Stranding's a much better game than part one, and they've made everything better that they built upon. As almost as like there was a foundation to build upon to make this game right here. Basically just be peak the Kojima that you knew back then. 90 meta is huge for this. That's crazy. Like I said, this will eventually end up coming to other platforms because Kojima now has the rights. But Sony probably has a 1 year contract. But yeah, we don't hate over here. Plus, I said I beat Death Stranding 1 this year. I enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to this. I like Norman Reedus. I like Kojima. I like all the actors in there. So yeah, congratulations to Kojima and his team. Good to know that now he's gonna be working on other IPs. They're coming up. Things are looking good. They're independent. The Decima engine is great. Yeah, so there we have it. Let's get into this. Here we go.
Welcome, sir. Please relax and enjoy your stay.
Sam Porter Bridges.
Crossing the vast expanse, one foot in front of the other, the world stretches out before you. The sky and land mingle at a distance as the sun arcs across the sky above. There's no other games that quite capture this specific feeling of existing alone in such a vast space. It's special and central to the very core of Death Stranding. The original game took place across an Icelandic-inspired take on a ruined United States. The sequel introduces players instead to Mexico and Australia. The mission to connect one another remains constant, but the experience as you journey through the game is greatly enhanced by increased variety and improved technology. That technology is rooted in the Guerrilla Games Decima engine, which has been deftly utilized by Koji Pro's team to create some truly outstanding dynamic landscapes.
Yeah, that's the Horizon engine. If you didn't know, well, here it is.
The leap here is perhaps not quite on the same level as we saw between the first two Horizon games, but that's only because the original Death Stranding set the bar so high. The first key improvement you might notice stems from fine detail, both near and far, similar to Forbidden West. That is, compared to the original, rock formations, vegetation, and other natural landscape elements hold up very well under scrutiny. The game opens in this gorgeous mountain range with a level of detail reminiscent of Epic's Nanite virtualized geometry demos, but is achieved without relying on any such technology. The game is packed full of exceptionally fine detail, building on the already great results from the first game and taking it to the next level.
Nice.
There are still large open fields full of finely detailed stones, rocks, and pebbles, but there's also more variety this time. Deserts, lush forest areas, the ruins of a civilization, and more. There's definitely a greater sense of progression across this game as you proceed forward.
That's what it needs too. And as I was reading some reviews, so I haven't read some with you guys. They were saying that like the game is more filled now. There's a lot more story cutscenes, a lot more interaction, humor, gameplay, more than you ever would. So you're gonna feel more complete with this game. And obviously, yeah, if you want to get into two and you didn't beat one, I guess go watch it. I guess because they are connected and it's very important. You know how the Kojima games are.
Gaze toward the sky, however, and you'll also spot improvements to the original's ray march volumetric system. This allows more variety in the cloud formations, and generally produces cleaner overall results. The marriage of the two is spectacular, especially in HDR, which, by the way, this entire video is being presented in HDR, if you have such a display.
No wonder.
But where we really start to see divergence from the original game lies in the more dynamic elements. Things like lighting, weather, and environmental effects all greatly expanded here. For starters, the game now boasts a fully real-time time of day system with smooth transitions between day and night. Watch closely and you'll spot dynamic shadows adjusting in real time according to the sun's position, resulting in some dramatic moments. such as here in the desert where the sun begins to set behind the mountains, shrouding this valley in shadow. Or how about in this lush jungle area, the sun begins to peek up between the trees, shining its light through the leaves, creating this beautiful looking scenario. And while
Yeah, that's highly accurate and takes talent. Not everybody can do this, only a certain amount.
we're in this area, I should also note that I like how they handle the shadows in this game. While it can't match ray traced shadows or anything, the sharpness of the shadow penumbra does seem to vary based on the proximity to the object. Like here in the forest, Sam's shadow is a lot sharper
That's how good that engine is and how they're utilizing it. That says a lot.
than the more diffuse shadows seen from the trees. Shadows are largely artifact-free throughout the game, which is absolutely critical towards keeping that believability intact. In addition, the game unsurprisingly makes use of screen space shadows for finer details, such as those cast by small plants. It's another example of using well-worn techniques to good effect to create something that does look beautiful while remaining performant. The game's approach to both direct and indirect lighting is visually striking, though, as always, not without limitations. From what I can tell, it relies on a pre-calculated probe-based global illumination system with multiple light bakes corresponding to different times of day. This technique works by placing a grid of light probes throughout the environment, essentially sampling points that store indirect lighting information. These probes then inform how the surfaces nearby are lit, allowing for reasonably realistic bounce lighting without the computational expense of real-time ray tracing, because yes, there is no evidence of real-time ray tracing being used here. But despite that, the overall image remains beautiful and cohesive. You'll find areas where the lighting can fall a little bit short, and it's obviously not going to match a real-time ray-traced global illumination system, but
Like when you think about what they're doing with the technology they have right now at the PS5, they're utilizing it the right way. Like Kojima's team, like they do a good job. This is pretty much, doing it the right way, and you don't see his game being buggy or any of that. No, it's all optimized. This is how you do it. I love seeing it.
it still looks absolutely beautiful. I'm especially fond of sequences where sunlight filters into these interior spaces, be it within enemy installations or aboard the Magellan, producing a moody atmospheric glow that heightens the atmosphere. What really adds to the game's dynamic feel, however, is the sheer variety of weather effects and how they impact the environment in meaningful ways. So as with the original, rain and tar continue to play a pivotal role. When caught in the timefall, for instance, thick tar begins to seep up from the earth, enveloping the landscape in a convincing, eerie fashion. The way these phenomena integrate with the gameplay remains one of the game's signature elements. This time, however, water, too, has received a noticeable upgrade, comparable in quality to what we saw with Horizon Forbidden West, albeit with some additional dynamism. A dry riverbed, for instance, might suddenly transform into a raging torrent following a heavy downpour or flash flood. It's not just a visual effect, it directly impacts the traversal and moment-to-moment gameplay. Rushing water also features a robust foam simulation along with floating debris, while calmer bodies of water also behave more realistically. Surface reflections across water and metal alike utilize a blend of screen space reflections with height field ray marching, helping to reduce the typical disocclusion artifacts you see with SSR. Yes, screen space issues are still present if you go looking for them, for sure, but they're masked more effectively than in many other comparable titles, especially when used on water. On the topic of reflections, though, one standout.
Damn, look at those effects, and that's probably going to be running at 60. So, by the way, like they were saying, this is running on a PS5 Pro, by the way, so this is pretty much optimizing it as much as you can. It's looking really good. I like what I see. Like I said, I enjoyed part one. I know this is going to be much better and more enjoyable. And I'm wondering if it's going to maintain that 90 meta, but because it's Kojima 2 and Game Awards and Geoff Keighley, you know that's going to be a Game of the Year contender. But it's good enough so we see that here, but you guys know what I mean. I mean, you never know. They still got Ghost of Yote, we still got DK, which is going to be 90 plus meta. It's the Mario Odyssey team. There's no way that's not 90 plus. That's easy 90 plus. So I think it's going to come down to Claire, you know what I mean, Donkey Kong, this game. Ghost of Yote, we have to see. If they knock it out the park, it can be in there. You know, a couple other games, it could be up there. We still got to see what else is coming out for the rest of the year. You never know. See, things just come out and you're like, damn, man.
standout moment involves a fireworks display surrounding the player. The spectacle itself is amazing, with a dense array of GPU-driven particles lighting up the scenery around you. But what's even more striking is that these particles are also reflected across nearby surfaces.
Yeah,
This
see
isn't
that.
just typical SSR play, obviously. The reflections appear to mirror the particles themselves, resulting in a remarkably consistent and immersive presentation.
I have to admit, it's definitely a marvelous showcase. Like walking through and seeing those fans spin like that with the reflections on the ground, it's pretty nice. You have to admit what Kojima and them are doing here is definitely nice in that sense. Even if you're not into it, it's just cool seeing this because this could be used for other things in the future.
And yes, all of this runs at a rock solid 60 frames per second.
Exactly.
The particle work then is exceptional. Rain, as in the original, is superbly handled, something you'd expect from a team with roots tracing back to Metal Gear Solid 2 and its iconic tanker chapter. Rain lashes the environment, droplets refract light as they strike the virtual lens, and when the action slows down, such as during hand-to-hand combat, these effects continue to animate realistically in slow motion.
Nice.
It's a true visual treat. Beyond the rain, other types of weather and environmental conditions can appear as well. Sandstorms, for instance, generate a towering wall of particulate matter that engulfs the player. As you push through, you're met with fierce winds and poor visibility. The effect combines volumetric rendering with billboarded sand particles, while Sam's suit accumulates sand in real time. Cross a body of water afterward, and that sand is convincingly washed away. It's more than just a visual flourish. These storms impact gameplay as well. You can use them to evade pursuers, for instance, and the wind itself has a physical presence, pushing Sam around and making traversal that much more difficult. There's even a scene where you'll encounter these fire-based effects paired with thick volumetric smoke that gradually fills the air with an impressive cinematic haze. It's deeply atmospheric, and also, again, directly ties into the gameplay. And that's one of the big components with this game, is that all of these cool effects and various systems that are integrated here do actually matter in terms of how you play the game and cross the world of Death Stranding 2. Of course, there's other details that have nothing to do with gameplay, but definitely add some additional nice touches to the experience. For instance, the terrain deformation system. This appears similar to what we saw in the most recent Horizon game, but essentially, footprints now persist in areas like this for extended periods of time, adding a grounded physicality to the traversal. There's also more lush environments, packed with dense, detailed foliage that sways believably in the wind, while also reacting to most of Sam's movements, though, as always, there are occasional limitations in interactivity, with Sam's legs clipping right through smaller plants.
And I could just imagine this technology is really good. See, this is where I like technology being really good because the game is actually good. So you're actually playing a good game that's fully optimized all across the board, and all the dimensions are really good. Though, of course, Death Stranding it still has this unique attraction, but you get what I mean. There's nothing broken here.
But as stunning as these environments and the associated effects may be, there are some nitpicks I can level with the game.
Okay.
Specifically when looking at the mid-range terrain system. Firstly, the ambient occlusion system produces obvious blotchiness around small plants, particularly when juxtaposed against the rocky terrain, while reflections can also produce some noisy artifacts as well. These are expectedly rendered at a lower precision, likely for performance reasons, but as a result can sometimes be a little distracting. More noticeable, however, is the mid-field level of detail system. Near-field areas directly around Sam feature exquisite detail, as I've already pointed out, while the silhouette of distant scenery never fails to impress. The mountain ranges, rock formations, everything looks great from afar. But if you look somewhere in the middle, that point of the image where the far field and near field are connected, you'll spot some surprisingly low-resolution textures at times, essentially filling in the gaps around the more complex rock formations. You won't
That type of stuff, I don't care because I'm never gonna look at that. That's not affecting my direct gameplay. I get what he's saying though. This is just them being our analysis.
necessarily notice this often during normal play, especially when moving across the terrain, but when you stand up from a vantage point and look down across the world, you might spot it, and honestly, it doesn't look great. There's also some strange time of day lighting choices that can occur from time to time, leaving the game world looking a little bit on the odd side, but given the themes of the game, I'm sure this is intentional and it's fine. Really though, this is all just nitpicking. The overall depiction of scenery and natural phenomena remains top tier, some of the best virtual landscapes you'll encounter in any game on the market, I'd say, and at a level of variety that expands way beyond the original Death Stranding. But if we bring the scope back in, that brings us to our next topic, the cast.
Oh, we know that's gonna be good. The personality is gonna be great. We don't really chapter 2 virtual human.
Death Stranding 2 places a renewed emphasis on storytelling, and in pursuit of that goal, Kojima Productions once again taps into its extensive Hollywood connections, assembling a cast of high-profile actors and actresses to bring its unconventional narrative to life. The original game already featured some of the most impressive character modeling and animation work of the previous console generation, so my expectations were high, but even then, the improvements on display here managed to surprise and delight. As you know, the character presentation is split between real-time in-game rendering and the directed cutscenes, which are also real-time, and for my money, Death Stranding 2 delivers some of the finest cinematic direction I've encountered in any game to date.
Of course, he's been doing that since Metal Gear Solid 1. He's a master at that now. Now he has all that technology, more budget, less constraint. Oh, yeah, I mean, I could imagine that. So we get the idea here, right? And there's probably people that probably don't want to see too much, but there it is, y'all. So Kojima delivered. He's back now in the 90 bracket, and he's made it clear that, you know, he's not done too. He's going to be working on other games. So once again, congratulations to the Kojima team. And congratulations for the future Game of the Year contender, because I just know Geoff Keighley in the Game Awards. And plus, like I said, you're there, so there's no way you're not getting in there. So yeah, ponies, sit down. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I like what I see. Like I said, I went to take a look at some of the reviews. And yeah, there's a lot of 10s. So, you know, it's typical stuff for like Kojima and certain games, you know, you would expect to get. But he ended up doing it. So there it is. No hate over here. All right. So yeah, that's Sony's Game of the Year contender right there. And let's go see Yote gets in there too. We'll see. All right, y'all. Peace out. Have a great day.